Albacore Tuna. This sustainable premium fish is popular in sushi restaurants around the world.
But serving it at home is way easier than most people imagine.
Today, Rob and I will explore mouth-watering recipes and learn about Albacore Tuna's journey from the warm currents of the Pacific Ocean to your nation's table.
I'm Robert Clark. As a chef, I have spent my entire career in the pursuit of sustainable seafood.
I'm Carmen Ruiz Laza. As a consumer, I've made sourcing local Canadian seafood my mission. Rob and I are going to take you on a journey. We're going to meet the men and women that bring the sea to our tables.
Dig in, let's go!
Albacore tuna has long been prized in Japan and other Asian markets, but now a large majority of Canadian albacore stays right here at home.
But for many home cooks, it is still an intimidating product to use. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Today, I want to demonstrate 4 simple ways you can easily prepare albacore tuna at home.
First up, tuna melt. This dish is considered a Canadian classic, but today, Rob is kicking it up a notch.
So there's 4 loins on the tuna. What I have here are the bottom loins, and I asked for the bottom loins because they have the belly on it.
Oh.
And the belly is, for a lot of people, is the best part of the whole tuna. But why I like it for this particular application is because it has a lot more fat, and I'm cooking it. So I've removed the bellies off of these 3 loins, and I'm just going to remove
I see that on menus, and that's coveted.
It's coveted, yeah, just because it's so rich and fatty.
But how did this tuna get on our table? Earlier, Rob and I headed to Sydney on Vancouver Island to meet Peter, captain of the tuna boat Optimist.
Mr. Peter DeGrief. Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to meet you, Peter.
Peter's boat has a crew of 3, and they've just returned after 30 days on the open water.
For tuna, there would be the captain and 2 deckhands.
So what does a typical day look like fishing for tuna?
For a typical day, you work with a number of other vessels. So hopefully you wake up and there's a school swimming around underneath your boat. Sometimes that happens.
Wow.
And so you would do a circle to kind of just circle around and attract the fish and get them to bait. If that doesn't work, you just start driving and you try to find breaks in temperature. When you see really clear blue water, that just means there's not a lot of plankton and life in the water. Whereas when you see that greeny water, that's where plankton edge, there's lots of plankton mixed in the water. So what we're trying to find is that edge where the blue meets the green, kind of.
Are we going to get to see your boat?
Yeah.
Are we allowed on your boat?
Yes.
My question is, how do we get
to the boat?
There is a ladder.
We have to wait for the tide to rise.
Yeah, you make sure you catch me if I fall down that ladder, because
Okay.
I get, oh God.
I'm afraid
Oh,
of.
I am.
Luckily, I'm not afraid of water. Just heights and ladders.
Me too. I have this thing.
Come on, baby.
That was such a great job. I'll just sit here and watch you work. How's that?
Who's going to show me around this boat?
Tuna boats will go out to sea for weeks or even months at a time. Peter's boat is a troller. Trolling is a sustainable way to catch albacore, as it minimizes the bycatch of untargeted species, and it allows the fishers to return these fish to the sea.
Well, this is where all the action happens. So this is where we bring in the fish. You can see the rigging. Those poles go out at a 45-degree angle. Attached to them are all these lines. At the end of those lines are a jig.
A colorful squid.
Yeah, it looks like a colorful, squid or fish.
Oh, there's no barbs on the wire.
No barbed hooks. These are what we call the tuna pullers. And this just wheels in the cord. So we would use this winds in on the tuna puller, and then we get to that's a chain to just weight it down a little bit. And this is the purlon. Once we get to the purlon, that's when you just hand pull it a bit and you flip them aboard Once it's on the landing table, we have knives right here. And this is where we would cut at the top of the gills so they releases the blood. And this actually works as a de-hooker. So we run the hook around that and the fish slides down. There's water all on here. It goes down a chute into our forward holds. The most time we ever have them on deck is about 30 minutes. And sometimes 10 minutes, they're good enough. They're well enough, and we just, every half hour, we're loading the trays.
Freezing the tuna just as it's caught ensures that it will stay in perfect condition while the boat remains at sea.
Below we have trays, we call them racks, and we have about 12 on each side, and they each hold about 7 or 8 tuna. And they're frozen on those trays in front of, we actually have what they call evaporators, and we have 2 facing each other, so they're blast units. And so they blow cold air right onto the fish.
Hey guys, can I see a tuna?
Can we show her?
Can I see what it looks like? Because I don't think I've ever actually seen. Huh.
They're high speed. And
High
they have
speed.
very large eyes, as you can see, and that's so they can spot things from a pretty good distance.
Wow, they do have big eyes.
We never see them whole like this.
That's-
Very seldom. They're always cut up into the 4 loins.
These are the top loins and then the 2 bottom loins. So they're almost identical, except the bottom loins have the belly on it, the belly flap, which is where the most fat is. Like, it's so rich.
And your product mostly stays in Canada,
It always is delivered into Canada. Yeah.
so I can buy your stuff.
You can buy my stuff, for sure.
Back in the kitchen, Rob and I continue creating 4 tuna dishes.
This is a classic tuna melt. It's mayonnaise, pickles, mustard, relish, parsley.
Yum.
In this one particular one, I put some tarragon because I love tarragon. And I'm just adding cheese, just the same as my dad did. He would put it in like a really cheap hamburger bun. God bless him. But you see the lines in the tuna, like just, and you see the oil, like it's so good raw too, Liz.
Sashimi is my
Yeah,
thing, but I'm very tempted. I love the idea of tuna melt. You know, that's a very luxurious tuna melt. You're a lot faster than me. I better hustle.
No,
I'd never
you're doing
make
great.
it in your kitchen.
You're
I
doing
guess.
great. Take this out to the barbecue. Just put it under, put the lid down. Maybe say, I don't know, 1 albacore, 2 albacore, 30 albacores.
Or like just like that.
Well, it's not very long. Just as soon as the cheese starts to melt a little bit, bring her back
So
in.
put it
Here,
on the
sir.
barbecue, close it.
Close the lid.
And
yeah.
this is for taking it off.
Yeah, so you don't
Okay,
burn your fingers.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay, you trust me with this?
I trust you with this.
Let's see how well I take directions.
Tuna is one of the world's most popular seafoods, but not all types of tuna are as sustainable as Canadian albacore.
Can you tell all your friends that I helped you?
Overfishing in other parts of the world has created endangerment concerns with many species of tuna.
But the way albacore is caught and managed by the Canadian fleet ensures that what we get on our tables is a responsible choice. One man who knows lots about tuna is marine biologist Lauren Clayton.
This is the North Pacific albacore tuna. It starts off in the other side of the ocean, spawns, and the young tuna come here when they're 2 to 3 years old because the water is so rich here, nutritious. Then they turn around and they go back to the other side of the ocean. The tuna that we get in our waters, they come to our side of the ocean in the Oregon area. Then they come up the coast following the warm water. They go up maybe as far as Alaska. Then as the season changes, they turn around and they go back the other way.
The season lasts from late spring to early fall.
Albacore tuna is caught several days boat ride offshore.
Tuna are actually a warm-blooded fish, so they loop into the cold water to feed on the nutritious food. Then they follow the currents up and down the coast.
Up until the early 80s, this current existed largely in international waters, which meant that the Canadian fishery competed with international fleets and had little control over the management of this resource.
Now, Canada can ensure that our albacore is caught responsibly and sustainably.
Every fisherman that fishes tuna in British Columbia must have albacore tuna logbook on it. They document every fish, all the bycatch, if there is any, the volumes, all that stuff. All of our data that's collected goes confidentially to the federal government. It then goes confidentially as a country to the IATTC, And there's international scientists that monitor the populations and the harvests, and that is one of the reasons why the populations are so good.
There are 15 different types of fish that can be legally labeled as tuna, so it's critical to know where your tuna comes from and what species it is.
Also, our albacore is extremely high in omega-3 fatty acids, makes it very healthy. And so that is one of the reasons why it's gone from basically a canned product to now a sashimi grade in top scale in any restaurants around the world.
Oh, careful, it's hot, hot, hot. I can hear the sizzle.
Yum yum.
Rob and I just finished making the tuna melt. Now on to the next dish, sashimi.
And it's so good even without salt or anything. What I'm going to do with the sashimi, I'm just going to put a little bit of QP mayo, a little bit of soy on it, some cucumber, and that's going to be our sashimi. And then we have this wonderful smoked albacore.
Yeah, I haven't tried smoked, I don't think.
It's phenomenal.
Oh.
It smokes up so nicely. So I'm just serving it just with a little bit of mustard. Mustard always goes good with smokiness. This is just some pickled red onion. Just it'll add a little sharpness and a little texture to the experience.
And so pretty.
And so pretty.
You've got me cooking, you've got me serving.
Done a great job, Carmen.
I'd hire you someday.
Wow, look at this, huh?
Wonderful.
Rob and I are preparing 4 tuna dishes for some fishermen and their families. 2 down and 2 to go.
Chef, these were very popular.
Back in the kitchen, Rob is whipping up another course.
Niçoise salad, new potatoes, green beans, cherry tomatoes, eggs, and of course, seared albacore tuna. And we're just going to mix that. I'm going to put some pickled red onion.
And do you pickle those yourself?
Yeah, these are quail eggs. I'm going to add the quail eggs at the end so that they don't get too damaged up. Some fresh chives. But this salad is great for summer, especially if you're entertaining. Well, you're going to see how fast it takes to cook the tuna. Here I just have a little honey mustard vinaigrette. Put a little bit of that on. What I liked about albacore as a chef, just the ease of using, like just how easy it is to versatile and how versatile it is. Like the flavors of the tuna. I mean, you can make a poke, you can marinate it, you can ceviche. Like there's just so much you can do with it. So we're just going to toss this up in the dressing. And I wouldn't put the dressing on too much before you go to serve the salad. The only thing that I sometimes do is I will actually marinate the potato a little bit, because potato, it absorbs flavors so much and it doesn't, so I sometimes do that with the potatoes.
You always buy your tuna frozen because there's no other way
Always.
it comes, right?
Always. You don't want to, there's no point in buying defrosted tuna. It defrosts in 2 hours in your fridge. Tuna, like there's no upside to buying defrosted albacore tuna. What makes Canadian albacore tuna so special? It's the fact that its core is frozen within hours of it coming out of the water, and then it stays frozen until you take it out of your freezer.
Companies such as Arrow in South Vancouver process the frozen tuna without defrosting it.
Wow.
This ensures consistent quality whenever or wherever you buy it.
Exactly how Arrow processes frozen tuna is a bit of an industrial secret.
Still frozen solid.
frozen.
Still cooked.
So we were very lucky to be let in to see their team at work.
So they go that way to here.
These machines remove the skin, bones, and bloodline.
And then the loin is carved into something we recognize at the store.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Leanne, thank you so much.
These are a little bit of quail eggs. They're soft boiled. Took me hours. I started with 112 and ended up with 60.
This is a very beautiful dish.
And this is just the salad part. I'm also going to grate these are Brazil nuts. And not that I'm not into food combining, or that's certainly not my specialty, but it's very healthy if you eat tuna. If you eat tuna, eat it with Brazil nuts. It makes it healthier.
It looks so pretty, so fancy.
Okay, so now we have some tuna. So we're going to cook the couple of the bellies as well, so that you get to try it cooked.
So I take this right to the barbecue?
Yeah, please, thanks. Okay, here we go, next course.
Now that Rob's tuna loin is defrosted, it's time for the barbecue.
You make it look all so easy.
Well, we'll see how successful I am. It's been a while.
If you have a high temperature like that, it just quickly sears
Sears
the
it,
outside.
sears it, yeah.
And keeps it sort of-
Caramelizes the natural sugars and all the protein, and then it releases from the cooking surface, whether it's a grill or whether it's a pan.
Oh, that smells really good.
It's Canadian Albacore Tuna.
Oh.
Great, look at that, eh? And it smells good opposed to smells fishy, right? So that's why when we were at the processing plant, how they're grinding off and they're trimming it down, that's to remove all those bones at that end. So my skill or my talent or my experience, all of that is irrelevant. It's you buy high quality. In my case, it's always Canadian seafood, sustainably harvested, and you can't go wrong. Like you don't need to spend 40 years in the kitchen to be able to handle a quality product like this.
Ooh,
Maybe.
perfect.
Brought to you in part by Ocean Regenerative Aquaculture and CKR Seaweed. Your Nation's Table is brought to you in part by Liquidity Wines.
Back at Lauren's patio, Rob is putting finishing touches to his seared tuna, which he has grilled whole. But what if you don't like rare tuna on your table?
What all I would do is just
someone
simply
doesn't
just
want-
put these on the grill just for a second. Just for a second. It's not going to be dried out. If I tried to cook this all the way through, the outside would be dry before the inside was cooked.
Oh, that's a clever trick.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to slice this up here, and then
yeah, I know.
we'll lay it on the salad. And that'll still be, because it's as dry as if I tried to cook this the whole way through. As a general rule, especially with seafood, if you need to have it cooked a little bit more, the thinner it is, the better.
Wow. And it's so pretty. Oh my goodness, look at you, fancy.
One of the guests at Lauren's table is Ian Bryce, a longtime tuna fisherman whose family is continuing the tradition.
Our son Kingsley is 27 and he is running one of our two boats. He's been running it for 7 years now, so he started running the boat at 20. Our younger son Alistair is 25 and he's been running this boat and others, our other boat, since he was 20 as well. So they've both been in the fishery with me since they were 10, coming out on the boat, for short shifts to start. But they're out there right now, which is why they're not here joining us.
And I met Sebastian
Yes.
on your vessel, and he's just a young man, and
Yeah.
he loves it.
Oh, he absolutely does.
Yeah.
He wants to be a fisherman. He calls himself a fisherman.
Yeah. And he's
And
15?
he's 15, yeah. He's my uncle's grandson.
Sebastian is a seasoned fisherman, even though he's not old enough to drive.
One thing I did notice, my shoulders and my back got big, but I still got skinny. Like I'm skinny everywhere except my shoulders and my back. Because when you pull, you're just like pulling, like it's all shoulders and back. So like at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, my back,
But
everything
then
hurts.
you're like, oh, nice.
Yeah,
Look
let's
in the
see,
mirror.
yeah,
Like,
shoulders, yeah, yeah.
And I'm really good at pulling them by hand. Like I have a decent technique of flipping them in. So we have two sidelines here that go out. So I usually do the sideline, start yelling, sideline, sideline. First like 5 days, you're like, oh yeah, I'm out here fishing. It's gonna be so fun. It's such a nice trip. After like, once you get to 10 days, I'm like, oh, it's going slow. I want to go home. But then when it hits 20 days, I'm like, oh, this really sucks. When am I gonna go home? I just want to go to sleep.
On Lauren's patio, the final tuna dish is almost ready.
So I want to show the versatility of the albacore as well as the versatility of the wine. So like that's a very European dish. This is a totally Asian dish. Soy, sesame, you know, seaweed. So what I've done is I've wrapped it with a little bit of macro kelp that we get from Oceans Regenerative, seaweed company here in British Columbia. And seaweed just makes everything taste more like itself. Like it's not going to taste like, it's going to enhance the flavor of the albacore. And I'm curious to see your mouthfeel and texture from that one to that same fish, the only addition of a little bit of seaweed. This crate wine liquidity, it's a Viognier. It's so versatile, but it goes very well with like a denser seafood, halibut, tuna. Okay, I want to make a toast. I really want to thank you guys. I want to thank fishermen from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you,
Thank
Ian.
you guys so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Oh my gosh, wouldn't we? Do you want to? I do. Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Let's just wait and see after they see the mess.
Here's to British Columbia.
Yeah.